Okay, we're going to look at how to solve a few questions using the formulas. We're just going to look at this one on the left here. It's called a cylinder, and our formula is going to be pi r squared, which is the area of the base, times the height. We're just going to plug the numbers in there, and the numbers will be given to you. All right, so let's say it's going to look like this. This is going to look like, let's say 15. All right. So in this question, these are the things that you definitely need to look out for, okay? I don't know how else you'd really get these wrong. You've got a calculator right there in front of you. You're going to be given the formula. I mean, I don't really know how you get these wrong other than these few mistakes that you could make, okay? If you don't put it in the calculator correctly, it's not going to give you the right answer, okay? So that's the number one thing you're going to want to look for is, like, are you putting it in the calculator correct? We're going to write down our formula here, which is pi, but instead of r, we're going to put what the radius is. Now, in this case, since this line is drawn all the way across, that does not represent the radius, does it? It represents the diameter. So the diameter equals 10. What's the radius? 2 radius is 1 diameter, so you divide it by 2. The radius is going to be 5. So you're going to put times 5 squared, because it's times, you have to square that r, and then the height, which is 15. Do y'all see how we're getting, like, this line says the whole thing is 10. Whereas if I were to change this just a little bit, if I were to just change that line so it looks like this, let me use a different color so it's easier to see. Instead of the line drawn all the way across like that, and then you have the height right here, this represents the diameter is 10. This now represents the radius is 10. So you would put it in just like 10. But if the 10, like the question was given to us like this, the whole thing is 10, and let's say centimeters, okay? If the whole thing is 10, you got to use half of that, which is 5, okay? And now we're just going to go through, I mean, we could put that in the calculator all at the same time. You're going to use 3.14 instead of pi. If you use the pi button on the scientific calculators, it gives you a much more exact answer. So if it said pi times 5 squared, that's 25 times 15. Volume equals pi. We're going to multiply the 25 and the 15, and well, let's see. I'm just going to get my calculator out because I'm feeling lazy. 25 times 10 would be 250. So what you're going to want to look out for definitely is you're going to want to look out for the diameters versus the radius, okay? All right, let's see. 250 or 25 times 15. So what we did is we just multiplied that up. You could just multiply, since you're using a calculator, let's just multiply this whole thing at the same time. Like we're going to need to do it anyways. So we're going to put that in here like this. Pi, which is 3.14 times 25 times 15. This would be your answer, okay? 1,177.5, and we're going to say centimeters, okay? Since we use 3.14, it gives us a nice, neat little number like that. But if you use the pi that's in your scientific calculator, and this says it's the scientific, see if that, well, nope. This is going to be your exact, or your answer round to the nearest tenth, okay? Because they use 3.14 instead of pi. It's going to say round your answer to the nearest tenth of a centimeter or something like that. We'd say 1.177.5 centimeters. I forgot something. We say centimeters cubed. That is volume. Volume is anything with 3 dimensions, and we use a 3 right there for the exponent to signify that we have the volume, which is 3. That means that everything that this takes up would be 1,177.5 cubic centimeters. All right. This one here, this is a cone. This will be the question. the volume for a cone is pi r squared times the height, but the whole thing is divided by 3. You're going to divide it by 3 at the very end, because a cone is 3 times smaller than a cylinder with the same height and the same radius. So we're just going to plug the numbers in here now. Now, do we need to divide this 4 by 2 because it's giving us the diameter? No, it's giving us the radius, so we're going to put 4 in for r, and then we're going to multiply that times 10. So you're going to do pi times 4 squared times 10 and divide the whole thing by 3. Now, if that line was drawn all the way across, then your radius would be 2. But since it's not drawn all the way across, it's halfway, it's going to be 4. And let's say we'll talk about miles. So we're talking about a big cone, all right? 10 miles deep, 4 miles wide, all right. We are going to now 4 squared times 10. So we're just going to, you could put all that in your calculator at the same time and then hit divided by 3 at the very end. I'm just going to kind of simplify this because it's a little bit easier. 4 squared is 16 times 10 divided by 3, and then be volume equals pi times 160. Divided by 3. Now I want you to look at something really interesting that happens right here. If it's a multiple choice question, the questions are not going to be so far out there or so close together that you're not going to know which one to pick. Like, the numbers are going to be spaced out pretty good, and we're going to know that what you did wrong. Like, if you followed the wrong formula, that will be one of your multiple choice answers. Like, so if you just thought the answer was just 160 pi, that would be the formula for a cylinder. Since this is divided by 3, this is the volume for the cone. And we're going to get rid of that for just right now, because we're not looking at that. When you multiply by 5 and divide by 5, those cancel each other out because they're inverse operations. When you multiply by pi and divide by 3, pi is a number close to 3. It's like 3.14. It's just after 3. So it's kind of like these things almost cancel, and your volume is going to be about 160. So you'd pick the multiple choice option that is closest to 160, because they're not going to be like 160, 170, 180, 190. They're going to be spread out a fair amount, okay? So let's just see what the calculator says, and let's see how far off we are. We're going to use 3.14, or you could use the pi button in your calculator. 3.14 times 160. Times 160. And you divide that by 3. And you get 167.4666. So it's round, it's going on into infinity with the 6s. It's a repeating decimal, so it says it's approximately 167, which is very close to 160. You know, like if you wanted to just guess, you'd say it's about 160, but then you could, if you wanted to get a more accurate answer, you'd say 167.5, and we're going to say miles cubed. That is the volume of that very, very big cone. Alright, the last example we'll do sphere. We're going to write down the formula first. 4/3 pi r cubed. Again, this is going to be given to you. This will be that like the formula will be given to you, and what the question is saying will be given to, like, this. All the information you need will be given in this question right here. All right, so the diameter here is, let's say 12. Well, we are going to say the volume is 4/3 pi. Our radius is 6 because the diameter is 12. We need half of that, which would be 6. So the volume is 4/3. You type that in the calculator, is 4 divided by 3. 6 to the third is 216. Alright, so now we're going to put all this in the calculator at the same time. 4 thirds times pi, bet you it's about to be like 4.2 something. 4 divided by 3 times 3.14. You get like 4.18666. So it's about 4.2. So if you wanted to, if a good estimate, you could look at 4 thirds times pi is like 4.2. Because every time you multiply that, that's not going to change. Like I said, that's going to be part of your formula every time. This number is the only thing that's going to be different. 216. So it depends on what the radius is. So 4.2 times 216. That's a good way of ballparking if you didn't have a calculator. But since we do, we're going to multiply it by 216, and you get the volume is 904.3. We're going to say inches cubed. All right. Enjoy. We'll look at some more.